Noisy Pixel.
It's not uncommon for games to be influenced by classic Metroid titles. It's also not unusual for those to be mostly unmemorable games. When Outbuddies released on PC, I don't think it received the recognition that it truly deserved. However, one thing I'll say about the initial release is that it had a problem with direction, controls, and slowdown. However, developer Julien Lafleur seemed to take the community feedback to heart to release an updated version called Outbuddies DX. Not only does this version improve many of the confusing and lacking elements of its predecessor, but it's also now available for Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. Outbuddies DX has players assume the role of Nikolai Bernstein, a seemingly crazy adventurer who finds himself crashing in the middle of nowhere and waking up in somewhere called Balam. However, he isn't alone as he is joined by a buddy unit who travels alongside him through this mysterious new world. From the initial moments of the game, I will admit that I was pretty lost. The story doesn't slow down for a second, and the next thing you know, you're running around the map trying to find your way. Outbuddies DX attempts to introduce its core mechanics at a steady pace, but I feel like it focused on gameplay elements that you never really return to. Features like sneaking and rolling past enemies are good to know, but once you get the gun, you won't feel the need to do these actions outside of a boss battle. The game also tries its hardest to teach you its control scheme, but let me tell you, it never gets easier. Controller support in this new version has wildly improved the responsiveness of exploration. However, it felt like my fingers were using every button at once just to move a rock or get up a cliff. It's not intuitive at all and adds a decent layer of frustration to get around. Outbuddies DX markets itself as non-linear, and to an extent this is more true in the later parts of the adventure. Still, you'll be quickly reminded if you're somewhere that you're not supposed to be after you find yourself behind a locked door or the bottom of a high ledge. Similar to Metroid, abilities and skills are gained to access new areas. Not only can you acquire new features for your weapons and your suit, but your buddy unit also is able to receive upgrades. Buddy is a strange inclusion in the game, as it is the cause of some of the more confusing moments of gameplay. Controlling the powers of the robot is twitchy and random. In the first hour, you'll most likely be very confused as to what this thing is actually good for. However, that becomes more clear in later parts, but I ultimately never liked this unit, unless I was playing in 2-player mode where a second player can control him. Outbuddies DX provides you with some interesting environments to explore that are dark and eerie. You'll quickly figure out that you're not in a safe place, given that everything seems to want to kill you. This game is not an entry-level adventure by any means. It gets incredibly tough, although sometimes the difficulty is caused by surprise enemies or random spike traps at the bottom of a fall. Still, be prepared for challenge, especially during a boss encounter. I personally enjoyed the minimal hand-holding that the game does, but some elements just appear to be cryptic for no reason, such as introducing a scale that needs a weight, but the required block blends in with the background so it's hard to spot. This becomes a little hard to wrap your head around when some movable blocks are used as non-movable blocks in some sections, so you're left taking time checking everything. I think I sound like I didn't have a good time with Outbuddies DX, but it's quite the opposite. I had a great time with it. However, getting lost or not being able to defeat a boss is always going to be maddening. Luckily, death only sends you back to the beginning of a room and not to a save point, so revenge happens rather quickly. The visual style of Outbuddies DX borrows retro influences from games that you might see created for MS-DOS. It works for the game's dark themes and provides a sense of dread as you make your way further into the depths of the labyrinth. However, it's incredibly easy to get turned around or waste time trying to find secret areas, since they are clearly defined. Outbuddies DX is a far more accessible version of this Metroid-inspired adventure. Still, there's a lack of direction that causes many moments of frustration, which stem from the game's complex control scheme. Regardless, if you're looking for a challenging and intuitive retro adventure, then look no further than Outbuddies DX. Noisy Pixel is giving Outbuddies DX a 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Please read the full review at noisypixel.net. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers who work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all our future content.